Can you imagine a world where one half of the population could not walk up, say, "Hey, Alexa," make a request and be replied? Because simply being female would mean access denied. Well, 100 years ago, women went in and fought with the settings of this world to make the voice command feature available for every single girl. Hey, Google, what is the women's suffrage movement? And the search results were astonishing to my sight. It read, "A century-long plight for women to win the right to vote in the USA." Kind of scratched my head like, hey, doesn't every human born with the ability henceforth have the liberty to voice their opinion, making that inalienable? So why would it have been taken an entire century for that right to be made available? It seems like this unfavorable plight was going on and on and on. So pardon me as I read through these search results, and it seems like I'm the one that's going a little bit long. But it read, in 1776, the United States declared its independence and became a democracy. Now, in order for any democratic society not to seem like it's based on hypocrisy, it has to make it available for its people to choose, to decide, and to voice their opinions about who they'd like in political positions and government. So, in 1787, the United States allowed white male property owners to vote. When I read it, I almost choked. Like, so you had to be a white male with green money for anything that rolled off of your pink tongue to matter. But it's okay, because in 1848, Seneca Falls, New York was filled with the chatter of 300 leading ladies all meeting together for a women's rights convention. The topics of discussion were social, civil, and religious condition of the rights of women. Small fact, the convention was held in the middle of July. Now, that's what I would call a hot girl summer, you know. But who asked me? Let's jump back to 1863. The Emancipation Proclamation freed enslaved people. Free at last, free at last. Yet there were only about 4 countries where their ballots could be cast. Until 1870. The 15th Amendment made it available for people to not be denied the right to vote based on race or color or previous condition of servitude. That sounded like a win. But then again, that was just for the men. But then, in 1917, suffragists began to protest, Mr. President, how long will women wait for their liberty?" See, women began to protest. They were met with violence. Some were even arrested. But it's okay, because it just shows how much women were invested in unlocking their voices. They knew that they represented the marginalized and disenfranchised and even those who already had the right to vote, but who too were met with violence at the polls, or poll taxes and literacy tests, or some type of way for states to legally discriminate. But then, in 1920, the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. Pardon me, I almost choked on my tears because we've all lived through 2020, which means that it has been 100 years. 100 years since our silence was broken. We no longer have to live unspoken, but 1920 was just the beginning of that war, because that only stood for white women. But then, in 1924, Native Americans were granted citizenship and the right to vote. In 1943, Asians were given those same rights, but it wasn't until 1965 that Black women had finally won their fight. They were given the right to vote under the Voting Rights Act during the Civil Rights Movement. In 1975, Latinas, señoritas, and other women minorities who had language barriers were finally given their just due. They amended the Voting Rights Act, and it said that states were now federally required to provide assistance, relevant language ballots, and translators were necessary, which was quite the contrary from how this world had been set from the beginning. The amendment banned the use of literacy tests and other discriminatory tactics, which means that it says that voting is an aspect of women's voices, but their voices cannot be redacted. Their voices cannot be removed. Their voices cannot be replaced. Their voices can certainly not be erased. You see, 100 years ago, women went in and fought with the settings of this world to unlock the voice command feature for every single girl. Hey Siri, what does it mean to be activated? She said, if a device or process is activated, it means that something caused it to start working. I like that word, working. You see, because words work wonders even when they're whispered. I said words work wonders even when they're whispered. They are powerful, and you, young lady, possess them. You are here, you are brilliant, and your perspective matters. It just needs to be heard. At some point, you'll do so with your vote, but for now, start letting your world feel your words. And on behalf of all the women who were arrested and suffered, do not be suffocated. Activate your voice. Do not be silenced. Activate your voice. Do not be quiet. Activate your voice. Oh, and that voice command feature that your ancestors activated has to be initiated by speaking so that whatever you say can now create action. So I am sincerely asking you to activate your voice because, again, 100 years ago, women went in. They fought with the settings of this world to unlock an unsilenced future for every single girl. Now, all you have to do is speak.